Cathy Paper.
Right. Wow. Thank you, Dan. I don't know if I'd agree with the America's, top marketing. I'll take, Minnesota, St. Paul, but I have a lot of fun with what I do, and I love what I do and really enjoy it. And want to thank Dan and the board and everybody just for being here. I know what it takes to pull off events. To get together, and it's just really nice to be here and share with you what I've learned in the journey on LinkedIn. How many of you are on LinkedIn? All right, awesome. It popped up and said it's my 4-year anniversary of RockPaperStar, and I started getting all these congratulations, and it's one of those moments where you go, 4 years? It's really been 4 years already? It feels like 4 minutes. Since I left Best Buy and decided I was going to kind of pursue my passion of helping with training, development, marketing. I don't have my clicker, so Tim, who is my rock star, no, he is my rock star. So one of the first things I learned, and thank you, Tim, is when I started speaking and presenting, was always get to know the AV guy. Does anybody? Forget about your client, forget about, your luggage, your speech, all that. Get to know the AV guy. So, Tim, this is especially for you. It's my lucky $2 bill because I want to say thank you to you for being the AV guy today and helping and doing that. So, thank you very much. Because really, marketing and getting things together, I want to share with you building the business around the message. And as I said, I've been doing this for almost actually 6 years. But what I want to talk about is books and your message. And how do you blow out your message more so that it can be more powerful, you can reach more people, connect with them. I think about it in terms of Berlitz. How do they dive in and soak up everything that you have to say with it? And then I want to give you some examples. I love every contest. I love every piece of product. I can't wait to dive into more of Elizabeth's material and look at that. I'm going to get your book. I want to see everything. I love product. And how about a round of applause for her and that great presentation? Really wonderful. And then I'm going to use the words monetize your message, and I'm going to talk about selling, but I really hope you know that my intent is that you connect with your audience, that your product connects with your audience, and the outcome of that is that you're more successful, you keep producing and generating more work, and that the best thing comes out. So if I say money and sales too much, it's because I get excited about seeing everybody's results. But I really want you to be intentional about it. So I got into this by way of helping people with books. And again, same thing. How many people have a book that's bound together or an ebook that's completed? So awesome, about half the room. And how many of you are thinking about doing a book? Great. So a book is one of the ways to reinforce your message. And what I see is your book starts with how do you blow out your brand? And you can see, here's an example of Terry Shodine from NSA, who just last year won the CPAE award. She had some fabulous results with her book launch. And, this is like less than 3% of the people achieve these goals, and achieve that result. And you don't have to achieve this goal and this rankings and these results to have a wonderful, fabulous message. So I want to dispel that right away, that everybody goes to write a book and goes, I have to have a New York Times bestseller. You know what? You do not have to have a New York Times bestseller to run a successful business, to have successful products, to be a successful speaker. And if anything, I think some of the people that are chasing the New York Times bestseller are gaming the system and missing what's really powerful. But I do know that we debate, when you look at that with your brand and all those people, that's your audience. Those are the people that you talk to, that you connect with. Which comes first? What do I start with? Do I start with speaking? Do I start with the book? Does it really matter? Which do I do? Everybody tells me I raise my fees if I have a book. How do I do that? I really don't care which you start with, so long as you do something to make your message get out there more. And frankly, I believe that part of your message can be right here on your phone, that you put it out there. So whether it's LinkedIn, or you decide you're going to talk about what you do on Facebook, or you send more emails, those are ways of connecting with your audience. So I've got speakers and I've got some of their websites and things. And what I believe is the products is where you can really do it. So I've run the numbers on this, and I know that after about, let's say 100 speeches a year, your marriage starts to tank, you don't see your kids, your back hurts, you're tired of talking to groups, you don't ever want to eat a Peach's chicken. You know, you write a book and maybe you have the same thing. You hate your publisher, you're upset with everything that's going on, you're not sure what's going to be your next book. Everybody's asking, you know, for those of you that had children, you'd rather have children than create a book. So what I like is the products. Because to me, a product is where you can really connect with your audience and have them understand more of your message and take action on this. So I came at it from the whole training area and development and how do you learn something? And who sat through boring presentations, right? You don't learn anything. You don't want to have anything. You're zoning out, you're making your grocery list, you're doing everything. So today I wanted to give you in front of you, and you've got it, it's called the What Game Are You Playing? This was one of the first products that I made for my own business. Because I believe, do you need one? Anybody need one? There you go, I got a couple over here. Okay, so I believe, and the story of this is the envelopes, so I happen to be fortunate enough to work with Harvey McKay, who produces 25 million envelopes a day. You know, he's got a huge envelope business, and when I first met him, they were just launching selling envelopes directly to consumers. Because normally they do big, large orders, and they were going to consumers. So all of a sudden, I'm about to do a presentation, I forget where it was, and I called, and you know, if you've just been starting your business, you know at the time when you go to make color copies and somebody says it's 50 cents a color copy, you're like, how many people are going to be in the room? 40? 45? You start doing the math. You're like, forget it, I'm not making color copies. Well, I called and I said, could you print on an envelope for me? And they're like, what? And I said, could you print my handout on an envelope? I know you only do 2-color, and my handout is in 2-color, and will you print on an envelope? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll print you 3,000 of these for $81. So there you go. I have a handout for you that doubles as a way to take out your stuff. And so there at the same time, I'm talking about a product, I'm explaining what it is, and I give you this by way of think for a minute before I launch into my shtick of why you're here. Elizabeth challenged you of what's one thing you're going to do. I want you to think as I go through my stories and do a lot of show and tell, what's one thing with your product maybe you want to accomplish? Why are you here today? What are you thinking about? Because in our time together, what do I have, Dan? 45 minutes? 30 minutes?
45 minutes.
45 minutes? Okay, well, we can get more coffee, desserts. If you need to go to the bar, I'm okay with that and come back. But what's your big picture? What do you want to do? Why do you want to connect with somebody? And just take a minute, because I know you're here thinking about something, you've got some little idea you're not sure of. And then that way, when we talk about products, you know, by the end of the day, maybe you'll have a product fleshed out, or you'll have an idea of how I work together, can work with you on things. So this is an example of something that I did for Joe Sweeney. It's a little postcard. I'll go into more detail. But the point is here, I believe there are 3 ways you can build your buzz and blow out your message. As I said, 100 speeches a year, you're divorced, you're tired, you're cranky. The book, you know, these are all the ways and things that I go through with people on the book. But on the right there, oh, and how'd they do the little laser lighter thing, Tim? Just push the little green light? Okay, so check this out. So the product here, that's the one where I'm like, that's the fun part of creating your product. How can you make it so that somebody stays with you more? You know when you go to a really good concert and you're like, I want that t-shirt. And you walk up and the t-shirt's like, what is it now, $50? And you're like, I'm not buying that t-shirt, but I really want the t-shirt. I want your product to be something that you say, this is so great. They really want that product. They want to connect with you. They want to keep learning more with you. So I'm a big believer in having a framework to start talking about your product and be able to roll it along. So I got to tell you, I told you I collect a lot of things. I grab a lot of stuff. I'll probably take like 2 or 3 of those pens just to see if they're good pens. You know, I have mild kleptomaniac tendencies, but it's only because I'm curious. So there's a ton of opportunity with products, but I want to show you something in all my collections. So bear with me as I walk back here. Because how many of you have libraries of product that you've collected So can everybody see that? This is all the product I have. Not that I've created, but this is all the product that I've collected, that I've seen, that I've grabbed from places. And there's tons more out there. And for those of you that have products somewhere, you know, why do you have so many different items? You know, what is the thinking behind all your product? What's the flow? What are you doing with it? And do you really love your product? You know, you have series of DVDs, and does it make sense to the customer? Do they know how to connect with your product? How does it work so that they can do it? Is it a, you know, CD thing that and then you buy the CD and you go through the next round of experience of working with somebody? Who's bought a CD and then signed up for something else? Right? Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, is there's a ton of options. And when you start, you want to think about your product of how do you build the business? How do you build that connection? So Elizabeth was great and said, you know, she does all her product sales by connecting into an audience and meeting with them. And once she's met somebody, I bet, she clicks with them and then they tell their friends. You have to work with her. You have to connect with her and work with her. So I recommend, before you even do a product, think about where it fits in your cycle of experiences that somebody touches with you. Because you're the product, right? Like, I'm the physical product, and then what do I do to have people connect with me? Is it going to be a webinar? Is it going to be, you know, speaking only? Is it going to be coaching? Is it a mastermind program? You can go all the way down the funnel of things to grow your product mix. And Ross, I'm looking at you. I'm glad Ross is here. Ross and I have many arguments about product and about social media. And you know, what's the point of all of it? And I say, if you don't like product, don't do product. If you like product, and product could be coaching, that can be your product. Don't do something fancy. Do not pay somebody $75,000 to build you a product that you don't really want. As she said, that will turn into something or will be a six-figure launch. Don't do it unless you're really psyched about talking to people and sharing more learning with them. I got into this business because I was so mortified by what people were spending to create things that they weren't able to get the return on their investment. And I said, that's not the right way to do it. So this is an example. You know, you can have a copy of that, but it's thinking about what's the flow? What does it look like? How do they follow along with you? How do they know what it is you're talking about? So now I'm going to give you a couple of examples. As I said, Harvey McKay is one of my clients. This was his original book. He and I have worked together for 6 years now. So Dan, you gave me that great introduction, but I'll be honest, I did not help him launch Swim with the Sharks. I didn't know what it was, but when I met Harvey, I knew that here's a guy that really wants to teach people and educate them, but only did it from the podium. He didn't have anything else. And I went up to him and I said, I'm a little direct. I get asked all the time if I'm from somewhere besides Minnesota, because I went up to him and I said, your website is terrible. And he looked at me and he's like, you know, who are you? And I said, well, you know, I've just been thinking, I read your book and it's really great and you have these columns in the newspaper and you do all this speaking, but how can I get your newsletter on a weekly basis with the email? And it was just not anywhere on his radar because he was so busy running his company and just speaking. And I said, people want to connect with you. They want to know more about you and what you're doing. And so we were able to do some work together, and I'll share a couple of examples. But before that, in terms of creating product, anybody seen the fish video? Yeah. Okay, so I did the fish video when I left Best Buy. I went and worked for Fish, and they were taking the video and rolling it into organizations. And what would happen is they'd show the video, everybody'd feel great, they'd have a wonderful time, and then what happens? Nothing. Nothing changes. And I had worked at Best Buy for a long time and seen how people change if they have certain things in front of them or if their leader says something to them that they should follow. And I helped at Fish and said, let's create some tools, some guidebooks, some Post-it notes that people can give to somebody else so it can be a visual reminder of what that message is. Play, make their day, choose your attitude, and be there. Thank you. I'm blanking on the last one. And so we went into these organizations with audio and with a worksheet and with a Post-it note so that they could pass them around, with awards, with things that we looked at and said, how can we affordably make this work? So that when they go to Paramount and charge Paramount, the video was like $1,500 just to buy the video. And so the HR manager would always say, well, I don't have any more money. And we're like, well, don't you have money for a little deck of cards that are $3? And sure enough, they have money for that. And then you start to add on and you find where the sweet spot is of how that product works with the organization. So the fish philosophy, if anybody's ever seen that little Beanie Baby, the beanbag, when all the fish speakers speak, they throw that fish around. And then the company wants to buy those fish. Well, those little Beanie Babies are like $5 a fish. And there's a lot of fish out there. So what's going to be your Beanie Baby or your thing that the audience clicks with and connects? Okay, so let's go back to Harvey for a minute, because as I said, I went to him and I said, you're the product. What are we going to do with your website? And take a look at it. And I recommend, if you haven't at your website and Googled yourself, Google yourself, because you're the product. And you will find so much out about whether it's your rankings or Wikipedia or who else people are searching for in the little bottom corner there. Amazon, if you have a book, do you have an Amazon page? I can't tell you how many authors I see that have a book and there's nothing on their Amazon page. And I'm like, as far as I can tell, Amazon's ruling the world. So let's take advantage of telling on Amazon that we're a speaker and putting our video in there because they've figured out every little plug-in. So these were some things that we did in terms of product to make some connections to have that happen. Okay, so I may have said this already. Harvey's not big on product. He wears a shark tie that his daughter did for her MBA project and bought like 4,000 of them from over in Italy, and he bought them to support her. And he gives out the tie. And so when I met him and I talked about the website, I'm like, you don't do anything else? I'm so excited, like, here I've got this guy, can't we do some product? Like, you could be really, really rich if you did some product. And he didn't really want to do product. And then we did 2 book launches together, the last one, the McKay MBA of Selling in the Real World. And he said, you know what, I really love this book. I'd like to teach people more. So we developed an online training course. Does anybody have an online training course? Or license somebody's online training course? Taken? Yep, awesome. You license somebody's? Great. Because online training courses are a really interesting way now for people to get a repeatable weekly experience with you and to connect with your message on that deeper level. So on this site, somebody already had the platform. We didn't build the whole deal. We just had them skin it. So you can see up at the top there, we just took that logo and made it. We put the book in there. I'm a big fan of don't ever show a flat book. It looks like a stamp. Uh-oh, what happened to my slide? Oh, there it is. Okay, so then this is what we did is he had all these audios from a round table that we had, and we cut them apart and made them into different sections. We put the, sales assessment, a quiz in there, surveys, that's him talking. There's our agenda we outlined. Very much the same thing Elizabeth talked about doing, only we just made it in an online format. And this is still on ice as a product, but it just gives you an example of what can you do with it. And it took us about maybe 30 days to create. It was no more than $3,000 to make with time and development and doing all that, because I wasn't going to spend a ton of money to make something that I wasn't sure if he was going to want to use or not. So we built that, and again, I'll keep you posted on the results on this. So this is another one of my clients, Joe Sweeney, and what did you say?
I like that.
You like that?
Networking is a contact sport.
Okay, I was like, do you like the guys in the shorts? No. Okay, so Joe came to me. He had already written the Networking as a Contact Sport book, the bestseller book. And he had a big workshop. He was on the podium to speak in front of the group, and he didn't have any packages. And he came to me and he said, or I said to him, let me help you with that. I would really like to take your idea. He was Brett Favre's first agent because he used his networking skills to meet Brett and to connect with him. And in fact, it was one of the things that he didn't want to use that picture. And he said, well, that was way ages ago. And I'm like, Joe, that is the thing that gets people's attention, that you use the tools in this book to get to people. That helps build your credibility. That's a story that you should use, that we want to connect with. And so what we did is we made a 6-week program, and I'll show you this or leave this out afterwards so you can see it, but we made this little kit. And the little kit, we made about 200 of them because it was a prototype to see how it worked. It had all the items in it. We made the workbook that went with it. We made the little cards so that they could learn. We made the audio that went into it where we interviewed them. So again, what Elizabeth had said about have somebody else interview you, we did some great coaching with him there on his speaking. He was a fairly new speaker because he was an investment banker. So we made this audio. We branded it really nicely because I believe the brand of your product, you should really love it. We see a lot of product, and you can look in the wheelbarrow. There's a lot of product that you're like, you know what, nobody loved this product. They just slap something together and it looks icky and it doesn't make me want to spend any time with it. And I'm a kid at heart, and I'm like, let's make it really fun. And so with Joe's, he likes to write notes. We put stationery in there so you could actually write a note. We bound it in a cool way so that even in this digital age, the people that left the workshop and the seminar having paid $197 for this, were knowing they had something of quality. I like to have every product have a little sense of humor, and I didn't think that you should network with bad breath. So we put in there his favorite kind of mint, had that in there. We did, one thing that I would tell you is a mistake. I had some idea, late night idea of a poker chip, and there were 4 poker chips, and when I was going to meet with you and network, I was supposed to give you the poker chip, and then you had an ability to ask me for something. I don't know, it didn't work. So, not every product works. Not every piece of every product works. And the best thing you can do is test it, and test it on an audience. Start small, start with just getting something out and doing it. And the results were what we created with him was his website so that they could buy it. He didn't have a shopping cart. We made the whole sales funnel so that you could buy just the product, or you could sign up for the product and the coaching, or you could go into the more executive weekend workshop and really spend time with him because people wanted access to him. And we did, basically that evolved into him realizing, I don't want to sell a lot of product. I don't want to have a fulfillment house anymore and do this. I just want to do executive coaching. That's what I want to do with this, and I'm only going to have, an elite number of clients and help them with that, and that's going to make sense, in addition to his speaking. So again, this was a pilot, and it was a way to get it together there. All right, another example is Mary Malloy. Mary was an author out of New Hampshire that had been a trainer for 20-some years with IBM, gone all over the world, was writing her second book, and came to me and said, I'm not sure what to do with my audience and what my product mix is. And we sat down and kind of looked at her website and said, how do you want to connect with people? So if anybody's ever felt like they have too many ways of connecting with people, she was at that point had been to too many seminars and heard all these different things. I'm like, how about we focus? How about we pick the couple of things that you're going to be successful with, that you're passionate about, and that you and your daughter can maintain, so that it's not, you need 7 virtual assistants and an IT guy and all that. Let's pick something you can maintain and you can grow your list, because you can have successful products with 500 people in your database. I mean, it doesn't have to be 10,000 names. So this is just one sidebar shot of her website where you can see how she's thinking about the product. She's inviting people in to get a free business sample plan because that's one of the products that she sells. She likes to sit down with people and do that coaching. She likes to do the sample life plan because she started doing work with homeless women and helping them get back on their feet. And I said, you know, show what those examples are. And then she had a life balance self-health test, and that score was a way for her to get in contact with people. So I really recommend, a product could be you taking your content and making a quiz, something that helps people realize they need you, they need your message, they need more of you. And you know, again, I say work with what you have. She had met Stedman Graham. Stedman clicked with her. He said he would help her, introduce her to women's groups, that should be her focus area. And again, she was reluctant to use that picture. And I'm like, you know what? You have a picture with Stedman Graham. Everybody knows who he is. That, right? Am I right? This elevates her a little bit to maybe she's somebody I should listen to when there are so many different people talking about it. So she got comfortable with that after a while. All right, anybody know local Paul Bots? Yep. Awesome, Dan does. Dan and I do the Good Leadership Breakfast. So when Paul and I met about a year ago, Paul had 3 different websites, a lot of different products, a really great brand, but no real way to connect with people on a level beyond just executive coaching for $25,000 and attending his breakfast for $20. And we started to have conversation and to look at, what are you doing? What are you creating? He's been blogging every week for the last 2 years. He loves to write. He's got great content. How does he leverage that and create this goodness movement? And Ross, I know you've had some conversations with him, and you said at NSA to him, you're the goodness guy. And that really stuck with him, because if you meet him, he's perky and positive and wants to bring out the best in everybody, and it's genuine. And so we said, let's work with that so that we can get you to take these mugs that he had built. So he had, anybody have some what I would call remnant product in their house or their office? Okay, so he had a lot of remnant product. He had, I don't know the exact number of mugs. We still have a lot of mugs because somebody got excited and he ordered tons of mugs. And then he had those folders, you know, right up there. And he didn't have a speaker sheet yet, so we made the speaker sheet so that it all starts to hang together. Because to my point of, again, you look in this barrel, if it doesn't hang together, the audience starts to know that, and they wonder, is this product any good if they see 5 different versions of it? So you want to have your product hang together. So Paul, we really worked on how can it hang together. At this conference, we tested, you know, he's got his book there, and then we tested this thing called the, oh no, that's not the shot, but you can see we had the bags. I got the bag right here. He had this, and we tested, can we send people home with something called the personal leadership group, so that it was a mastermind group right in a little bag, so that you got 5 binders that you could buy, 5 books, and you take it home and take it to go do a mastermind group with your friends or your coworkers. And we tested that at that event we had last year, and helped take his ideas. Again, I'm big on assessment or a quiz or a way for people to see that they've made progress. And this was one of the assessments where you can see they get a little score, and we made it look good because his brand is color and he uses a lot of color. And we said, let's run with that. And it's available as a PDF that you can download. And when he works with it in teams inside organizations, they're really psyched because the materials look great. And everybody feels that, you know, kind of uplifting energy with it. And we're still in the pilot phase of, we did about 35 groups, and then we're going to see what did they think, would they pay money for it. You know, one of the hard parts with doing a mastermind group is people don't want to buy something for their friend, and they're worried, will the friend ever pay them back? So that's Paul and the goodness expert. Steve Schussler, anybody eating at the Rainforest Cafe?
Yeah.
All right, so Schussler is the founder of the Rainforest Cafe. He called me when he was launching his book, and 6 weeks before launch and said, will you help me with book launch? And it was frenetic, and we did it, and we had a big book launch at Barnes & Noble, and really fun. And of course, because I love product, I got really excited and said, Steve, you got to do product. You could make so much money doing product. You could reach so many people. And we made this whole prototype. You know, cardboard box. I look like an arts and crafts person from Michael's. And we make this product, and he looks at it like 3 days before we're going to do the book launch, and he's like, I hate this. And I'm devastated. And I'm thinking, why do you hate it? He goes, it's not me. It feels weird. And I listened to him, and part of me was like, I knew he was right, but there was part of me that was like, I really want to get this thing produced and see if it works, and we didn't produce it. And what turned out happening is he bought this bar, and it's called Green Acres, and if anybody read about it in the newspaper, he took all that energy and momentum towards the barn. He's big into spaces and experiential spaces, and now he has a space that he can hold retreats at. He can have workshops there, he can do training and coaching, and it's his environment. So his product is more the environment than a bunch of sheets of paper and coaching programs and all that. He wants people to come and hang out there in his creative playpen. So this is an example I wanted to share because it was one of those moments where I was like all those other consultants, like, you gotta do product, it'll be the greatest, and it'll be a 6-week program, and entrepreneurs will love it, and anyway. So I recommend if you get a chance to go see the place, it's over the top. One more story I'll share with you is Carr Hagerman, who's a speaker, and he and I work together at Paramount Studios with the Fish philosophy. And Carr is the audio guy. He was the one who would do a 90-second podcast for all the Apple sales executives, and then they would say, we want more. We want more of you. We want more coaching. The executive would listen to that audio in their car, and they would say, can we get that guy back out there to do work with us? And so I show his example by way of what he found by doing audio and starting to work on this was that audio is really one component of his product mix. So he does a lot of speaking, but up in the left there on his website is the audio of where you can either download his audio or you can learn about his products where he will help you create the audio. So he did all the audio with myself for Joe Sweeney, where we coached him, where we recorded it, where we helped him frame it up so that he could do it. Because sometimes trying to create the product yourself, you're in your own, you're in your own head, you're not sure if it's good anymore. And so what more is out of his speaking work came, one of his products is selling audio and speaking coaching. And that's been a really successful piece for him because while he likes to write and he's written a book, with Hyperion and he keeps working on his next book, when he does audio, it's done and it's a product that's out the door because a half-finished product's not going to do you any good. So you really want to take one and finish that one product. So, okay, here's where I get to the part of your, back to your little sheet here, is what's one product that you want to create? Elizabeth had challenged you at the beginning, what's a product that you might be able to do, and what's something that you could actually do to move that product forward? And I'd encourage you, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to think about it and talk to the people at your table about what's your product that you really want to create, or maybe you want to talk to somebody about a product to figure out what could I create that my audience will learn more about me. Okay, so take a couple minutes, noodle on that, and then we'll circle it back up. I'm going to connect everybody back on things. I can tell there's some ideas that are brewing and percolating, so I hope you've put a few things pen to paper with your ideas of what you're going to do. Anybody want to tell us what you're going to make or one of your products? I'm sure you got a lot of people with good ideas in here to help you get it done.
Jack had a good idea.
That is
All right, Jack. Round of applause for Jack.
For Jack volunteering.
great idea.
Start. I'm gonna have pink pens at my thing.
That's original.
I'm developing a workbook, so I don't know if it's a great idea or what, but I just heard so many people talk about how you're one and done as a speaker, and my workbook's going to be built around how I would come in at the beginning, they would do the workbook, and then I would come in at the end, so I would build in a little speaking business to my product.
Great. And what is your workbook on?
Well, my brand is called Don't Flinch, the 6.5 Lessons a Starving Actor Can Teach Your Organization. So it would be those 6.5 lessons
Nice.
in the journey, and we're going to put graphics in it. And I'm building it kind of around the highlights books. I don't know if anybody remembers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make it a little bit of a fun journey rather than a really dry or bubble fest.
Great. And see, did anybody notice how when he said that highlights and everybody and workbook, like we tend to think in 3-ring binders because we think that's what's going to work. And think in what's going to work with your brand and your message that you want to make, and go a little outside the lines. Anybody else? And thank you for sharing. Anybody else got something they're going to go and do and build and create?
I'm thinking of CDs and DVDs. And somebody said it, and I forget who it was. It said go from sound bites to show bites. And I think those of us who want to do more coaching than being can go into some other more creative venues based on the knowledge we already have to help others see it in smaller bites.
Okay, great. So say it again, show bites. Show bites. Awesome. I like it. Okay, we got one in the back.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you recommend having a plan like for 5 years on products and start with something and then add to it? Is there any formula?
Okay, the question is, do I recommend having a plan? And I heard the word 5 years and I stopped breathing.
I did too. 5 years. I may be dead.
I recommend 1 year, maybe 3 years. And frankly, I was telling somebody, I think at the beginning, a product I'm excited about is it's a 100-day traction plan calendar. Because I think if you build your plan for 5 years, you're not going to see progress. But I would do the math on a product so that when you have to invest a little bit in a designer or in your time to create it or somebody to bounce it off of you, yes, have a plan. But if you do 5 years, your head's going to explode and you're not going to know what's going to work. So that's my thoughts. Elizabeth, anything you might add on that one? Do you have a 5-year plan for product? No. Yeah. Great question, by the way, because that's why to me it's a bit of same with when do you decide if you're going to speak somewhere for free or at partial fee, when maybe it's a room that's going to give you some amazing contacts and connections. Or maybe you speak somewhere when you know that that's a brand. I mean, I've sent my clients, go speak at Best Buy because you can put that logo on your website so that everybody knows you've worked with them.
I would just encourage people to not only think of the learning, that obviously we're all sharing content, but when you have a brand, especially if you're in humor or you have something quippy, I have greeting cards, t-shirts, and the game. There are all sorts of things you can do. So it's not just learning. Some people just want to have fun with it or remember, like you said, with the rock concert,
Yes.
buy a t-shirt so they can remember it or give it as a gift, but especially women buy things to give to other women as a gift.
Right. It's a great point of remember, it's all about resemblance. So Judy gave me her orange rubber band before, and she tells a really nice story around the power of color, the power of the messaging, maintaining a positive attitude, and it's a rubber band. And she said when she explained it, she's like, I didn't invent this, but people love the rubber band, and that builds within the organization. So as you're speaking somewhere or at a conference or inside an organization, look around. I looked around Best Buy and saw that everybody had their years of service awards up on their wall, or they had the training they had gone to. And I thought, what if we put something up there on their wall that was a little certificate but had a little bit of a kick, to it, and then they would do that. So great point of other things. What else?
There's, is there a rule for focusing or getting an understanding of what the target audience would be, say, for a book? How does one go about that process? Because it could go through any topic, could span a long way. There's a huge scope of possibilities.
So if I understand your question, it's how do I identify the target audience for a book? Well, there's a great guy that was at National NSA, is it Dan Pointer? Dan Pointer, who has a phenomenal book on crafting your book and building your book, and a workbook pamphlet that he gives out in his breakout session, and he's been doing this for 40 years. I think one way to identify your target audience is sit down and talk to a couple people and see what resonates with you and what resonates with them, and then do the research. So a lot of people that write a job book don't realize how many other job books there are out there, and if that's your category, I'm sorry, but you got to figure out what's going to work for you and your audience. And then I recommend you start just testing a little bit. Write an article first. So that's one way I say to people that if they're thinking about a book, write one article, submit it, start talking about it, write a speech around it, see if can you live with that topic for a long time. And then any other published authors want to weigh in on that question?
Yes, I'm just thinking, write a number of articles in your target audience, and so they get familiar with who you are and the quality of the content that you have to deliver to, like healthcare or some industry specific. Start writing your articles, and that can become a book.
Yep.
Booklet.
A booklet, exactly. So.
Another really good question to ask is just who cares? Just answer that. Yeah.
Yes. So one of the, and I'll just add on that to the point of who cares. So a lot of the people that I work with when we're either coaching or implementing, they're sort of so close to their material they forget what's valuable with it. And one of the first assignments I do to them is I say, go find your fan letters and your emails and the comments your spouses have said to you, or why people have said you have to write a book on this. Find those, send them to me. Or find them and sit down with them, and you will see what is your best nugget in there of what they're connecting with. The audience doesn't lie. And I think that's the piece of, are you really listening to what they're going to say, what they're saying?
I was just going to say this sounds really simple, but I'm going to go back to passion. I remember when I was in grad school, I used to have a professor, and he would say, you got to pick a topic that you want to make love to, go to bed to, wake up to, because that's your damn book. And when you're passionate about it, and when you stand on that stage and you speak to it, even if they never read it, they're going to buy it.
Right.
And so if you're picking stuff just on the market economy, don't get me wrong, you can sell, but when you deliver it, they won't feel that authenticity. They won't feel that sincerity. So what are you passionate about? What are you passionate leaders to know or civilians to know? And write it with passion, and it'll sell when you speak about it.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
That's good. All right. I agree. Ditto. Who else? Anybody either want to share or have a question?
It's the old thing about where to pay. I think we've heard that before. And for example, in education, pain is in the fact that the teachers are strapped and tested, and their souls are crimped. That I'm talking about my passion right now, because that's something I'd like to write about. How to let your soul expand without that harness.
Yes.
pushing you in the corner.
So,
So it's
the-
about pain, and you can come with something that helps them.
so I like what you're saying about it's about the pain or the connection. So one other way that I recommend people connect with who their target audience or what that ideal message is where are some of the testimonials you've gotten? What have people said? So when somebody comes up to you and says, Nick, that was a really great speech, your first response is you'll go, thank you. And you want to say, thank you so much. What was it that you loved about it? What did you like about it? Make them tell you what they liked, and those are testimonials that you want to hang on to because that helps you do the marketing of your book without you having to say it. So, I am fortunate that anybody listen to NPR and Chris Farrell? So Chris Farrell and I are going to be working together on a book that he's got coming out next year, and this was his last book on the new frugality. And we were meeting, and we were talking about he wants to, do some speaking, and what were his speaking topics. And he said, well, I don't know if I should speak to education or not. And I said, well, didn't you tell me you really like to teach people? He's a phenomenal journalist and articulate. And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, wouldn't you find those people in education? And wouldn't it be fun to do a graduation speech? And his eyes lit up in this way that he just hadn't thought about how do I talk to the people because it was right there in front of him. So anyway, what else? I'm open for a couple questions now, and then I get to wrap up, right, Dan? Ross? Oh, no. Hold on. What?
Avery, you are a creative genius, and I love you. You're very giving to come here and share your intellectual capital with us. I think you should tell the group what kind of things you do. You're not selling to us, but I think I'd like to know what sort of things do you provide for the newbie speaker or the seasoned veterans? I mean, everybody needs a world-class publicist, which you are. You're very modest, but you are.
Okay.
And what type of services do you provide, a la publicity, book launch, or product? Because I think I'd like to know.
Okay. Do I have to give you like $5 or something? No. I got another one for you. Okay, thank you, Ross. So, you can tell I get excited. I love what I do. I want to help everybody make things. I want to help them get their message out. So I work with people on a one-on-one basis if they want, just for an hour to help you formulate and focus and figure out what is it that you want to do with either your book or your speaking or your product. And then I help people with, if they want to do a book launch, whether it's I give a self-study, do-it-yourself kind of kit so that you can learn everything that I've learned on some of these grueling, national tours. Or I can help do the full service of all the implementation, getting people branded and connected. And then with product, I really like to help people make something. So when Elizabeth was talking and she says she thinks in worksheets, once she does it more than once with worksheets, as people are talking, I make little grids and ways of simplifying it and having it show up in a little idea journal with notes in it to it. And I help people figure out what do they do and then how do they affordably implement it, what makes sense, how do we simplify it. How do you monetize it so you can do it again? And if it doesn't work, we made an entrepreneurial club for Harvey. It was a terrible idea. I threw all the cards away and never looked back. So that's what I do, and I love working with people. So thank you. My goal, and I have the brochures up at the front, is I want everybody to be a rock star. So we made the little rock star guy so that you can channel your inner rock star, because as I said, if you don't love your product and you don't like it, why would somebody else? If it's painful, boring, and it makes you sick, don't do it. So I challenge you all to write in here, because if you've ever been to a goal setting workshop, put your name on here. You won this award for accomplishing what's your goal. Maybe you don't know it. Maybe it's to talk to 2 or 3 people. When's your date? And you guys are all a rock star at doing things. And I think I'm done, and Elizabeth is going to.
Great, thank you, Kathy. We have time for more questions for Elizabeth or Kathy, so let's continue. Yes?
One quick question. Cathy, you showed a funnel.
Yeah.
Build your, I can't remember the funnel thing. You said we could get a copy of it later?
Yeah.
Where's the best place to get a copy of that?
You can just email me. Oh, because of course I should say, well, I'm going backwards. Whatever. You can follow me on LinkedIn or send me an email, and I'll give you this on my info, and then I'll email it to you. So.
What's your email?
Cathy with the C at RockPaperStar.
Molly?
I have a question. You said that you threw away a ton of cards, you never looked back. Not that I do have a product that I want to throw away, but let's just say I had a lot of it. What is how do you do that without, and maybe to me holding on to it emotionally, but I'm ready to move on with
Yeah.
the product. And I wanna-
How do you do it? So the question is, how do I like let go or recycle product that I have that maybe you don't love or ideas that you don't have? Anybody seen Singing in the Rain? You know, I love that movie. So what I would do is take your product and look at it and pull out your scissors or marker or whatever and cut and paste and what is in there that you actually like. And if there's nothing that you like, pitch it and move on. And there are a ton of schools and organizations that want that material and may like it more than somebody else likes it. So I donate it and write it off. So,
There was a question for Elizabeth?
Or Cathy.
Well, we're going to close it, so this is your last chance. Anyone? Okay.
do you guys think though, this was our first time doing this together? I think it was a nice synergy, don't you think?
Yes.
Very good. I think we did pretty good together.
Great.